Hello and welcome to an action-packed Deep Glen episode 3. So, we're back in the attic. If you remember how far we got last time, we've got the insulation sorted out, first fix electrics done, and we're about to plasterboard. Oh yeah, don't forget the snow. Don't forget like and subscribe if you can, please. It would help us massively if you can. And over on the layout, we've got the track laid, we've got the court down, we've done quite a bit. We're up to scenics now, and today we start with the castings, but first. Right, it's been a couple of weeks since the last episode was filmed, and I have spent an enormous amount of time testing this layout and making sure the gauging is correct on all the corners. I did find problems left, right and centre. I had issues with the three-way point derailing. I've had issues with radius 2, well, call it radius 2, is it 435mm corners, where the locals are having problems actually getting around those because that's the minimum radius and I'm putting them right on the limits. So I've had to sort of widen the radius of some of the bends, specifically over by the TND and just coming off the three-way point, which incidentally was one of the reasons the three-way point wasn't operating correctly. I've also come to the conclusion that even though it's code 100, it's still not good enough in certain circumstances for plastic wheeled, old, triangle style coaches, things like that. So unfortunately I won't be using them on this layout. However, everything else seems to now be running fairly smoothly. So anyway, we'll start the three-way point, right? There's going to be a tunnel mouth here. Okay, so everything from here all the way around here, there will be a second level about this high that will have all of this area here, all of it will be covered, and there'll be, well, I'll reveal that later on, but there's going to be something very special in the middle of this, about here. And then we're going to have, this will be at ground level, we're going to do something with this corner. I'll get to this broken stuff in a minute, I'll explain that. Right, now along the back, there's going to be a retaining wall that effectively is going to run the full length of pretty much the full length of the layout. Now this is what I've chosen to use as the retaining wall. Now I cast this last night. That's basically what it's supposed to look like. And you have these little abutments that bolt on. Now this stuff still has not dried and it's almost 24 hours since I cast it, which is causing me problems. But effectively it's going to go there like that. Now the actual moulding itself is excellent. I can't knock them. They are exceptionally good. I mean, this is a first cast out of the mould, and they're always a bit dodgy on the first cast, like little bubbles and pockets where there's a bit of silicone left in the mould. I did clean it, but it's not perfect. Now, the reason it's broke is because I left it drying on the floor in the front room, and the dog stood on it and destroyed it. So, yeah. Now, this has taken an eternity to dry, and I need enough to come across the front of here, tunnel porthole, across the front of there, right the way down the length of that, right the way around the corner, and then tunnel porthole. So, I reckon there's about 20 in total of these that I need. They're quite big, don't get me wrong. I mean, you can imagine if it wasn't broken, damaged, you get a good idea. I mean, that's my hand, so, you know, quite wide. So I can't wait 2 days to cast each one. It's supposed to be cast, you're supposed to be able to remove them from the cast within an hour, and for some reason the plaster I have is not working that way. So what I've decided to do is go down the resin route instead, and I've found a fast cast resin that can set in literally 20 minutes. So I'm ordering some of that tomorrow. Hopefully it should be here for Monday, maybe Tuesday, and then I'll be able to do 6 or 7 a night. I'll have this done in no time, and they are much more stable and much more stronger. What I will be doing, the height of this, so that's the current height. If I put a DMU on the track, gives you some rough idea. Let me adjust the camera. There you go. So they're quite tall, these retaining walls, but what I'm actually going to do is lift them up a little bit higher. I'm going to add probably about that much more. So what my plan is if you look at these from this angle, I'm going to cut off this bottom section here, and then cut off a section of bricks and glue this section of bricks to the next board. Obviously I'll cut some of this off and then glue this section of bricks to that. This will then be glued onto a piece of extremely thin plywood, which will then provide a little bit of rigidity. That's how I'm going to build the wall. I'm aiming to build the wall, I think these are 105 high, and I'm aiming to build the wall about 140, 150 mil. It's enough so that I can get my hand in the fiddle yard to the back line and re-rail something or remove something over the top of the others if I need to. Oh, again. Oh, it's been a long day. So we've busy day plasterboarding. We're not doing too bad. We're getting there now. As you can see, we've done the main roof. We've just got the beams and the side panels to do now. And then each end wall. It looks like I've just about got enough plasterboard to do the job. So we shall see. But yeah, it's coming on a treat this now. Let me go over the other end and turn around. Oh god, everything hurts. Oh. There's the bomb site. Oh. Yeah, that's the floor creaking, but there is some of me creaking in there as well. So yeah, we're probably one more day away from having this boarded out, and then it's down to the plasterers. So yeah. So I haven't done this wall yet. That pile of rubbish has got bigger. I have done the underside of this and the beam, and I have done the underside of that and that beam, and I've also done the vast majority of that wall. Oh, so we can see plug socket, plug socket, plug socket, do fan switch, special under thingy light switch there, all cabled in. I've just got a little bit to patch in that corner using this. It's going to go under there, and I need to patch that vertical bit there. This wall is a little more complicated. I'm going to frame that out and lose that little alcove because we don't need it. We're not going to use it anyway. And then we've got 2 chimney breasts to get round, and there's a little alcove up there as well, which I'm going to get rid of. That's tomorrow night's job. Whoa. But let me see how I do that. There you go. That's where we're up to. If you're walking around up here, feels weird. So yeah, that view's not changed much other than these beams are now white. But that's tomorrow night's job, that. I'll patch that corner in down there, and then we'll crack on with that. And then, once we've done that, whoa, we've got the back side of the beam to fill in with all the offcuts down there. Because I am running short on plasterboard now. I only have 6 sheets left, and I need a few for another job. That's going to take 4 and a bit, maybe 5. That will take 5 actually. So yeah. Oh, one more night. One more night. One more night. That's what I keep telling myself. One more night. So, as promised, we're doing the casting today. So as you can see, it's fast cast PU resin from Polycraft FC100. It's basically two chemicals that you mix together that produce the resin, which you then pour as liquid form into these moulds. Now I got these moulds off eBay. They're quite good quality moulds actually. I'll put a link in the description. There's various different moulds you can get, from brick walls to window frames, door frames, roofing, you name it. You can basically build anything you want. I'm using some disposable plastic cups. You need a set of scales because this stuff is weighed by volume. It's not measured by volume, it's measured by weight. The chemicals have different densities, so you measure out the same weight of each chemical, which is slightly more than the other volume wise, and then you mix them together in order to do this. Now I would like to say this is fast cast, so this whole process from mixing the chemicals to actually pulling it out of the mould is about an 8 or 9 minute process. It is really quick. Now obviously I've shortened it down for the purposes of this video, but I am going to release the full 7.5 minute, 8 minute video as a special. The whole process is fascinating. I mean, it's like watching paint dry, but way better. That's the best way I can best way I can do it. So anyway, you weigh it took me a few goes to work out exactly how much casting material I needed for these moulds, but once I had it nailed, it was precise weight every time, gave me the same panel effectively. So you mix the two chemicals together, stir them together for X amount of time, and then just put the mould on a flat surface level, and then just pour the chemical in. You are supposed to wear gloves. It is technically, I mean, I'm fairly careful, so I don't really spill any, but this stuff generates some heat, so if you get it on your hands, you might want to be aware of the fact that you can't just wipe it off, and it will burn you because it does generate heat when it's setting. So you give it a quick bang, get the air bubbles out. Now I've obviously edited this and cut this. It takes a few minutes before the reaction starts to happen, but this reaction that you're seeing now on screen is live time. That's exactly how quick this stuff goes from being a liquid to a solid. It's still flexible for a while after this is done, and there's no more liquid visible and it's all just plastic effectively. It does take a few seconds, and it's still pliable during this time. It's still quite bendy and soft. Now I found that the corners of the moulds tend to curl up a little bit as it starts to warm up and heat, so you might want to just make sure that it's pressed flat, and I'd release it from the mould whilst it's still a little bit soft so that you can get it to lie flat. And as you can see, it took a substantial amount of casts. I went through two lots of that chemical, which wasn't cheap. All in, this has probably cost me over 100 quid in chemicals, but it was worth it. Right, okay, I've made a start on the platform. What I've done is, I've got some of these big sheets of, it's like 6mm foam board that's available at range, and cut them into 15mm, 16mm strips. Let me put that back. Right, and then I've sprayed some of this contact adhesive, usual stuff, same thing that we use for the cork. I'll put a couple of lines of that down and then glued these to the lines. Now this isn't, don't get me wrong, this isn't perfect, and is not exactly what I would class as being really firm just yet. So what we're going to do is now I'm going to cut up some little infill strips to go across here to add a little bit more support. I've got this card, and I don't know how well it'll come out on the images, but it's like a textured surface, and I think that'll do. There you go, like that. I'm going to cut a couple of strips of this and use it to line the top. Now what I'll do is I'll put an original strip down, which is the full width of the platform. Right, that's the grid frame constructed. We've got as far as the actual main base of the platform. So jumping into high speed, I'm now lining the sides of the platform using the plastic card that I showed you earlier on. Slater's plastic card. This is stone walling. This foam board is attached with, it's got paper either side with foam in the middle, so you can technically use a solvent glue on it if you're careful. Try not to get it on the foam because it just melts the foam instantaneously. But yeah, super glue is good enough if you're reasonably careful with it. Now, when you're putting these things on, it's a very good idea to try and line the brickwork up the best you possibly can when you're cutting them. That way you get the best finish when it's done, and then obviously a light coat of primer over the top. Now I've used plastic primer. It's a specific primer for plastic, and I did mask off my track. I didn't want it covered in primer. Still didn't stop me getting it on the cork, but it doesn't really matter on the cork because it's all going to get covered anyway. And then I applied a black wash to it. It gave a really cool effect, to be fair. A little bit of washing up liquid, and yeah, it did a good job. So the finishing surface on the top is that card I was talking about earlier, cut to the exact size, glued down, and then obviously any white edges that you see there I just went over with a little bit of black wash again just to get rid of. Now the same applied to the wall around the outside. That's had a coat of primer now. Each piece primed up and painted, and then eventually it has a black wash to match the stonework on the front of the platforms. Looks the part. So, as we come to the end of another episode, I've finished up here now. I'm turning this over to the plasterers. It's been harder than I thought it was going to be, let's put it that way, but we've come out on top, haven't we? It's all done. Let's have a quick wander round. Right, so we've got our little hole. The last job I need to do on this is just put a piece of wood in there and just frame that out, that little box out, so that when they plaster they've got something to plaster to. But other than that, we're all done. Top beams are in here now. Let's get rid of that piece of paper. Oh, so starting on this wall here. Hang on, let me just zoom out. There we go. So plug socket, plug socket, plug socket. This will be desk height, roughly here. So there'll be a table along here, and there'll be some stuff on it. This here, if you can see inside here, has got these special wires, RGBW cable. So this is the switch that runs the lights that are on the back side of here. So I'll show you how that works. Oh. So we have the switch over there, so you've got your power feed and your neutral come from the switch along there, up the wall, along here, underneath here, and they come out here. So one of these is a live feed. I think it's the smaller one, that one. No, it's the bigger one. That's the live feed from down there at the switch. That goes into the back of a transformer, which will be here. Coming out of the transformer is this wire, like so. And that will have a 12 volt. And that 12 volt runs to this switch. And the 12 volt is this grey cable. And then coming out of that is this. So that's your RGBW now. There's two of them in there. One comes down and then runs across there and comes out underneath that beam, and the other one is here, comes out here, and it goes into the LED tracking, which runs down the entire back side of that. So once this has all been plastered and skimmed in, the idea this will be flush with the face of the plaster. So we get this plastered, it dries, and then we paint over it, then we fit the LED trim, and then there's a frosted lens that goes over the top of that and clips in. So that runs down the full length, and that will wash this wall and this section here with light. Now it's RGBW, we're using what they call 50/50 strips, which are like the most powerful domestically available LED strip. It's very bright, it does the job. So effectively we'll be able to light up these corners any colour we want. And then we've got the 3 batten lights across the top, which have been spaced correctly now, permanently wired in. And then there's a 3rd wire in this socket that runs up to this, and then that comes out of there to here. So what we're going to do is we're going to drill a hole central in the wall there, and there's going to be a 100mm hole and a 100mm fan there, and that'll be the switch for it. And you'll turn the fan on and off there, and that should hopefully draw some hot air out of here if it gets a little bit too warm. And then on the other side of the room you have 2 plug sockets. They're just general plug sockets. I'll probably have a s1e3 plugged into one of them, and maybe a phone charger or something, I don't know. We'll think of something that goes in them. And that's pretty much it. I got rid of that corner, by the way. That little alcove, I just framed it out and then boarded over it. And then I managed to get this one down here with a bit of artifartery. Managed to get that one put in. I figured I might leave it, rather than trying to box it off. It was more effort than it was worth. But we've now got a room that's 4.8 wide, so it's 4.8 that way from that corner to that corner, and it's 5.6 from that corner, well, to there. So it's quite a large floor space. Now we are intending on bringing a lot of stuff for the attic up here. So whilst this does look like quite a big room, it won't be as big by the time we're done, because what we're going to do is bring all the stuff that needs to come up, all the Christmas and Halloween stuff and all that, and then we're going to put that along the back wall there, and then I'll build another partition wall along here with cupboard doors on that you can open and shut, so you can get in and get the stuff out, and it keeps it looking neat and still leaves plenty. I mean, even if we come out as far as, say, here, we've still all this space for layouts to be stacked at that end and stacked out. I mean, like Deep Glen, when it's on its side, only takes up about 3 foot of space away from the wall, which means, you know, plenty of building space for other layouts. So there's quite a bit we can do on this. So now it's just a case of waiting for the plasterers. They should be in this week, all being well. So I think you're going to see that in the next episode. You'll see the plasterers. We'll get this place plastered, and then the flooring down and the skirting boards, second fix electrics, splash of paint, and we are good to go, and the layout will be here. So all that to look forward to in the next episode. So in the meantime, yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. There's plenty more, and Deep Glen will be in the house, I believe, next episode. See you soon, take care. Don't forget, like and subscribe.